Oh, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, team. Welcome to Iron Theory pre-stream. My name is Arthur, just barely in frame. Just hanging out here now.
I think that barking means she's home.
That barking, what the hell? Is that
Whimpering.
is that a hickey on your neck? The fuck are you doing, Mike?
Dog.
What kind of allergic reaction bullshit is going on with you?
Dog allergies.
Yeah. Dog allergies. Uh-huh. Yeah.
You're just enough in frame.
I'm just enough in frame. Tilt it up, Move it up.
Oh. But just
gee,
not too much.
not too much, because then it shows you how.
Or it's
okay.
like revealing the Wizard of Oz. You're just like
Yes.
pulling back
Yes,
the curtain.
pulling. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is what it is,
I gotta straddle this chair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we have a new setup.
We do have a new setup.
Yeah.
Welcome to the pre-stream where now it's easier to look at Chris.
Yeah, we can.
It looks like we're having a
converse
discussion together. Like, look, we can cheers, and this isn't exactly
mate.
6 feet, but it is. It doesn't. Well, it's not like it matters. This room has no ventilation, and it's about the size of a fucking broom closet. So, a fucking mouse.
Hey, this made it a little smaller than, or a little bigger than a broom
Yeah.
closet.
A fucking mouse can have COVID
We'll
because
get it.
it's just
We're
gonna
breathing.
We're gonna. Oh God.
Oh, did I feed? No.
No. He actively took the food away from the dog, is actually what he did.
I came home, I looked at his food, I said, you can't have any more of this.
And you know what? They don't deserve food. Asshole dog. Do you know what his dog did yesterday? So there I am. I come in. You're not
Was this
home.
yesterday?
Yeah, this was yesterday. I leave my bang on the table in your backyard.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, it'll keep it cold and shit in here. I'm only going to open the gym, and then I'm coming right back out. Your dog gets to it. Spills my entire caffeine.
Did he
all
drink it?
300. No, he
Okay.
grabbed it by the side and started running with it. So I'm watching my drugs. Okay, my drug here, my favoriteest thing, my lifeblood.
Oh,
okay.
man.
Just get
You just had
porn
rage
by
just
this fucking
swell.
asshole running, and I'm like, no, come back! And of course, by the time Arlene gets it out of his thing, the entire thing is gone.
Oh my god.
Took that motherfucker. I smashed his face into the ground. Just here's the
man.
snow. This is what you get. You deserve this.
Wow.
My God, that was painful, man.
Impressive.
And you know what I did? I still squatted.
Even after that?
Still put my work in.
That's impressive.
Because caffeine is not a crutch. It is a supplement. I use it to improve my performance.
Hell yeah, we had an
not
episode
as a
on this.
crutch for my performance.
Exactly. Now, I don't know about you, it's definitely a crutch for me sometimes, for sure.
I don't need
I need
a heart attack amount of caffeine
I
to
need
lift.
that heart
It's
attack.
just like
I need it
I lift better.
so I can just feel like I'm out of breath in like 5 seconds. I need that my heart rate to actively be 140 beats per
Yes.
measure by me just sitting
Beats
there.
per measure.
Beats per
140 beats per measure. Dear God.
Oh man.
Here, if a
it's
measure
happening.
is 1, 2, 3, 4, like even like a really fast BPM is like 170, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and you want to fit 140 beats inside that measure.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
fucking Meshuggah drumming, man. That's
what my heart is just doing.
that's not a heart attack. That's a neutron star gamma emission.
That shit went right over my head.
I know it did. It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah,
Don't
it
worry
went right
about
over
it.
my head. I'm sorry.
You see,
smooth
neutron
brain-
stars spin at a frequent. Okay, whatever.
My smooth brain can't
Your
handle
smooth
this.
brain. How smooth the brain are we? I have $3,000 dipped into a failing stock
Smooth
on
brain.
the off chance.
Just in case. You know what? Let's just dump a
Just
shitload
in
of
case.
money.
Best case scenario, I make $8,000. Worst case scenario, I lose 2.5. Really?
Win-win.
God, it's a financial clusterfuck, but I will survive. I'll be okay.
It's an
if all else
experience,
goes
though.
to shit, I'll be fine.
It's definitely an
How much time do we have in the
experience.
pre-stream? Oh, 7 minutes left. Okay.
So, hello viewers, 3 viewers, or whoever it might
Yep.
be, because it might not just be catching up. So, different channel, I guess, that we're on through Twitch. So, we do a live show podcast right now. Feel free to interact while we do this. And then you'll be able to listen to the audio-only version of it through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc. So if you look up Iron Theory or follow the pages, there's a link there as well. So
we should probably tell them that the actual podcast starts at 5. Right now, we're just shooting the shit, hoping for the best.
So wait for the live show in a few minutes.
Hoping
so
not to get canceled.
5 p.m. Central Standard Time. I think that's what they call it, right? Where we're at.
Yes.
CST.
Yes.
Stay tuned. Yep.
So we're just gonna keep shooting the shit now.
So you lost money. You might be.
I did not
making
lose
bank.
money. I might. It's really. It's a.
It's
You know,
Schrodinger's.
the worst thing is that me making money or losing money is contingent on like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people on the internet, strangers, actually working together.
But isn't that a beautiful thing, though? I
Yes.
think the fact that this was actually got into main news headlines. It got to the point where it got to the fucking president of the United States. He was briefed on the situation. I think that's when
Yeah.
you're ruffling some feathers there.
The SEC is going crazy,
Yeah.
because literally nobody knows what to do, because technically it's not illegal.
Right. I mean, in
Technically, it's not illegal.
in this current state, it's not illegal, man.
Technically not illegal.
Because then you'd have to point it out every time they do it, Every time they're kind of doing those kinds of things on the regular.
Do you know who made a post about this, signed a letter, and sent it to the SEC in support of the shorters? So literally against the people doing the short push. I mean the short squeeze.
Wait, so
You would never guess who came out against the people who are doing the short squeeze.
Jeff Bezos.
No. It's literally the last person you would expect to come out in favor of the billionaires.
Donald Trump.
Elizabeth Warren.
Oh, in favor of the billionaires.
Yeah.
What? This bitch. What the fuck? Like, she literally ran on, like, that's been her gimmick, like, for a couple years now, like, ever since
she ran on financial fairness, man.
Yeah, what?
This is not a political podcast.
No.
At 5, it is not political. Pre-stream,
It's, exactly.
political.
But what? Are you serious?
Yes!
I didn't know that. What, this is a recent
Yeah,
thing
today.
she said?
Literally today. I was like, what? How?
Why? She already dug a hole in for herself during her campaign, but now
hold on. She did start out as a Republican, so now I'm actually starting to think about.
That's true.
She was a righty who moved left.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't.
Pretty center now, I guess. What? That's so crazy.
Here it is. She posted it on Twitter. Casino-like swings in stock price at GameStop reflect wild levels of speculation that don't help GameStop's workers or customers and could lead to market instability. Today I told the SEC to explain what exactly it's doing to prevent market manipulation.
So
Damn, boys.
that's ridiculous.
Of all people. Hell, even AOC and Ted Cruz were like, fuck it.
Yeah,
You know what? Technically, free market. Technically, if
that's what they
that's
always
what you wanna
run
do.
on. Yeah, I mean, like, Wild
Yep.
West out there,
Yeah.
right? It's supposed to be free market, except for when
At least Ted Cruz stuck to his guns. He's a dick. I hate him, but
good on him, I guess.
this
right?
one time he was all like, "Shit, yeah, I have no argument against it. Yeah, that
You
shit.
just gotta
yeah.
remain objective with it.
What
If
I gotta
he's
do.
right, he's
Yeah.
right. I'll
What
take
you
it.
gotta do.
I'll take it.
Like, who was it? It was like Elon Musk, AOC, and Ted Cruz. All were like,
We need
Yeah,
Elon
that's
Musk
what it is.
to do another Doge hype for it, because then people are gonna buy more of it.
Yeah, I don't
he needs to hype it up. Come on, Elon Musk, hype up that Dogecoin.
On the Reddit thread, Elon Musk is literally treated like a deity.
Really?
I'm dead serious. You can't yes, he. Oh, okay. Well, I need to look through this Reddit scroll. Oh, is it almost time? Where are we? Oh, it's 4:58. We still got a minute.
Got a minute.
Dude, the FAA is fucking with SpaceX right now. The FAA is like refusing to give the Starship prototype SN9 a license to test fly.
Oh yeah.
So it's been stalled on the platform for like a week now, and SpaceX has been trying to get FAA clearance to fly it because they broke some agreements when they flew SN8 the first time they tried the Starship landing.
Yep.
And the FAA was super pissed, and the FAA is under intense scrutiny because of Boeing and a couple of other mistakes. So now the FAA is like the Federal Aviation Association or Administration, and now they're like don't want to give him a license to test fly, and Elon Musk just got pissed off. I'm like, all right, you're scrapping. I'm bringing SN10 into the platform. So now there's 2 Starship prototypes in Boca Chica, Texas, in SpaceX's test launch platform, just sitting there. He's
building the Starship Enterprise, I hope. Somewhere in the
I don't know.
Somewhere in his blueprint somewhere.
We need a matter antimatter drive.
He's got to figure it out.
He's
just keeping that shit under wraps.
It's not even him. He's just the guy who has the money. Like, it's the engineers he hires. He just made good hiring decisions. Oh, it's 5:00. All right, let's do this. Let's go.
Intro,
launch it
scene,
to the moon. Let's go
to the moon.
To the moon.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, look at that intro. It's the people on the podcast audio only don't see the intro, but
yeah.
Oh my, is this a great intro?
Blue intro.
Do you have to go back to the normal screen here?
Yeah.
Yeah, we know it. Bros and brolettes.
Vikings and Valkyries.
Welcome to Iron Theory,
a podcast about fitness, life, and everything in between.
I'm Arthur.
I'm Chris. I'm sorry, my fiance in the chat has distracted me. She likes the social distancing.
She likes the social distancing. Yeah, we're 6 feet apart because
somebody bring in a measuring tape.
Somebody bring in a measuring tape.
See how far we are. Probably not 6 feet.
Okay.
I'm about 5'11". If I laid on this table, it'd be less than 6 feet for sure.
Yeah. So today is actually going to be an interesting one, and it's the first time that on Twitch we're ever on the Just Chatting channel.
Just Chatting.
Because I think that's exactly what today is going to be. So
when is it not that?
I guess that's true. Well, usually we have an outline, like we have a flow of ideas. Right now, we're just up. And what we want to talk today a little bit is kind of like the intersection between what our like actual careers are, like what we do for a living. So I'm a science teacher. I teach biology and environmental science in Chicago. And you are, Chris.
I am a personal trainer, also in Chicago. And yeah, that's what I do. Make people fit. And then there's a bunch of nuance that you'll discover. So the goal kind of today, I would say, is to just kind of see, as we kind of talk about, you being a teacher and me being a personal trainer, where stuff kind of crosses over, what's kind of a contrast. And then just, as we're just talking to see like, oh shit, you're right. That is very similar to X, Y, and Z. So yeah, it should be a pretty interesting chat today. So yes.
So some time ago, we actually did. So there we were. It was probably like right before New Year's, and we were talking about and it was right after New Year's, and how do you get like a protege, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say somebody asks you to go into the gym. So we actually talked a little bit about like how would you start off a beginner, and then we talked a little bit about the differences between the approach you and I would take and how to get a beginner started at the gym.
Yeah.
But today, let's actually look at like the the meta of it, like what underlies our actual teaching philosophy, right? Because at the end of the day, there's different approaches to coaching, right? There's different approaches to teaching. So I
just like that you use that word because I'm wearing a Street Fighter hat in the fighting game community. I'm sure in most games there's a meta that people will speak of as far as like, oh well, this is the way to do the game the proper way or whatever, right?
Yeah, the meta game, the
right.
underlying, basic. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So I think it'd be interesting to start with you here. Like, what is the philosophy behind coaching? Like not the actual practices, because we did discuss that in another episode. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the podcast stuff.
Right.
Okay,
all the
so
podcast stuff.
shameless plug out of the way.
Yep.
Talk to me.
So I would say, as far as coaching, there is a emotional connection that you have to kind of make. You have to kind of sync your brain waves in a way to that specific person that's kind of sitting in front of you. And usually I'll try to understand that person usually through the assessment, which is that first meetup with the client. So that initial interview or just sitting around chatting, how we're kind of doing right now. And then just kind of like figuring out what the person's goal is, going through all these questions, but then just kind of going deeper than that, because the person's emotional responses to what I might be saying, stuff that might turn the person off as far as certain things, because there's going to be, I'm very upfront with people. I'm very talkative, and not every client's going to be like that. They're not going to be very responsive to that. So it's just kind of figuring out, coaching, as far as coaching, the way at least that I coach, is to get on that person's, brainwave, wherever they're at. That's kind of where I want to meet them, so they feel comfortable. This personal of the personal trainer. So I would say that's the way to. Then everything else kind of flows. So like the actual fitness aspect of it. Because then, once you understand where they're kind of coming from and how to kind of like, talk to this person, then everything else kind of falls into place for me. So that's usually the first hurdle, as far as the coaching aspect of it. So that's how I would describe that.
So that's interesting. You're really starting with their mindset first. And it was interesting how you said, because you didn't even really mention goals or where they want to be. Yeah. You started with.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out my space here. I'm gonna figure it out. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. we have a new setup today, so bear with us. Yeah. But you started with their mindset and not so much where they want to go or where they even think they want to go.
Yeah.
You're starting with where they're coming from. So
right.
Which is very interesting, because that is part of my actual in classroom instructional philosophy.
Yeah, because we were talking about this beforehand while we were talking about this episode, and there's I would say there's a psychology to it. So I mean, they're with your students or with my clients, there's certain things, whether it's like body language or, just the way that they just react to something that you might be saying specifically. You pick up on that. And then even though you never make it obvious, but you take that mental note as something that, okay, well, this is not clicking or whatever it is. So go on. You were saying how... I forgot what you were saying.
Yeah. So this is a model of education that's relatively old, actually. So originally, a psychologist, Vygotsky.
Yeah.
His last name is I never remember any of these people's first names. So Vygotsky was a spearheader in a field of psychology, or a field of human learning. So how humans learn, called constructivism. And the constructionist approach, the constructivist approach to education is really personal and coming from how do you experience the world, and then how can we introduce your life experience through a scientific frame, and then what can you learn from that? So here's kind of what I mean. The approach we take is we assume that all students have an idea, right? A model of how the world works in their head. And this is definitely helpful because I'm a science teacher, right? So certain phenomena, you just sort of think you have an explanation for, right? So you have the pendulum, Newton's cradle, or people see rain, the sky is blue, right? They have experiences, they have phenomena, right? Everybody's fallen off a swing set, everybody's fallen off a bike, right? Everybody's experienced the third law of motion. You hit the brakes,
right?
You keep moving even though the bike stopped,
right?
Right? Everybody has an idea of how the world works. So in my instructional approach, the first thing to do is tell me how you think this works. Like I'll show them a video, introduce them some sort of phenomena that's common, that's easy to figure out. Maybe a wolf chasing a bunny or something. And like, tell me what's happening here. Explain to me, what are the relationships? Why is one thing doing like this? Why is this color? Why is this that color? What about the pause? And we just keep fleshing this out. They haven't learned any of the terminology, right? They haven't learned anything about evolution or natural selection yet. Yeah. I'm just saying, here's something. Explain to me. How do you think this is working?
And just so I can interject on that, just so, because I want to do this little comparison thing, because there's specifically with that, when I approach an exercise or when I'm meeting the person for the first time and I just have them tell me about their fitness experience, and then I'll have them show me their version of whatever, the squat, for instance, right? So I'll just have them squat. I won't even show them the proper way to do that, but I will just have them do the squat. I'll be like, okay, let me see your squat. Let me see however many reps, and then we analyze from that. But I just have them essentially use their experience to whatever that's previous experience of fitness was to show me where they're currently at, to then take them to the next level, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the reason the constructivist approach and doing things like this is so common is it's intuitive. Mm-hmm. You're like, well, how do you think it works? Starting from the and right. I use an easy example, and there's of course other things that are much more complicated in class. One of my favorites is all like. Make a model of a city as an ecosystem, right? What are the relationships? And they have no idea how to do it, but it's a starting point. When you start giving them new experiences, and this is where it gets tricky, and here's where it gets tricky, because sometimes your life experience does match up with like a new experience. So by that I mean like a lab, right? If you have some sort of idea about how evolution works or whatever, any science topic, you have some idea. And then you do a lab where you really zoom in on a single topic and the results were not what you expected. That's where learning happens. So that's what, in the actual psychology of things, is the zone of proximal development. And what that is this period, this very short period where there is literally a crisis, where you thought something works a certain way, and all your life you experienced something working this way, and then all of a sudden you have evidence, you have something that, it actually works something, it's actually totally different.
It's kind of how I use people's experiences with nutrition, because with everybody's perception of, I'm supposed to not eat this kind of way, stay away from these specific kinds of foods, or they hear some kind of trend or fad or whatever, and they have this preconceived notion that that's how you're supposed to eat, until they realize that that's actually in fact why they might have been gaining weight or vice versa, right? Losing weight or not gaining muscle or whatever. So that specific experience or perception that they thought they had, that they thought was right, they learn as we go through our sessions and have our conversations, that a lot of those things are in fact not the case, and then minds are blown.
Right. But that right there is such a critical piece of at least my instructional approach, or the way I teach and the way I develop my teaching strategy is that short moment. Because if what you expected match up with what you see, right, I haven't taught you anything. You already understand how this little part of the world works, right? Yeah. So for those students, it's like, oh, cool, I got it right, they haven't learned anything new, right? Learning occurs when you thought something was working one way, as it turns out it's working this way. And my job as a professional educator, as a teacher, is to get you to actually accept this way, right? This new evidence. And it's not like I'm telling you this is how it works. That's not how, I don't lecture, right? I'm not telling you.
Yeah.
Here is an activity. Here is something we're actually doing. Like, you did this yourself. You saw this.
Would you say your approach, or I would even just say like a high school teacher versus a college professor, would you say that'd be the biggest distinction between a college professor versus a high school teacher, where it's a bit more hands-on, whereas a lot of structure within like colleges with being a professor, it's a lot of lecturing, where it is just a lot of, talking to the ether or whatever?
That depends so much.
I just want to hear what you think, if there is a difference. Okay. You think, as far as that.
You make a fair point. The thing is, in college, that approach exists.
Yeah.
But it's
because it depends on the. I guess it depends on the subject too, right? Because I've been in a bunch of different classes, and I did have professors, so I'm not gonna sit here, but at least from like a student's perspective, there's a lot of the classes that I did take were a lot of just lecturing. And I guess if I did want to, in fact, get more help from a specific professor about a certain subject, I could reach out to them, but it wasn't really like this hands-on kind of a thing, all the time.
That is so dependent on what university you go to. Are they a primarily teaching institution like the university I went to, right, DePaul? Sure, they have professors doing actual research, but it's a teaching school, right? If you're a professor at DePaul, you're a teacher, and research is just something you do, but you're a teacher. Versus at an institution like Northwestern or University of Chicago, the big boy and big girl schools, where the professors are researchers who are pigeonholed into teaching sometimes. So it depends on that, and it really depends on the mentality of the professor that's teaching you. And at DePaul, I was really lucky that their program really was hands-on, especially their physics program. So their physics, the way DePaul University, the way I went to college taught physics was very much, let's do this, explore, figure it out from there. So that approach exists in college, but I'm not going to say it's going to be the same for everybody.
Yeah, I'd say definitely like with the hard sciences, I guess it's really hard to teach some of those things without, showing something that this in fact exists. Like, this is how this works, right?
Well, lab component is huge in college.
It's a lab, right?
The lab component, every science class has, every core science class has a lab component to it, right?
So that's definitely true.
And then of course when you get to grad school, that it's all hands off deck. Like, you're actually doing the science. Like, you're writing a thesis. You're actively doing new research, new work, right?
Right.
My goal for my students is you're literally rediscovering what was already discovered. I'm just kind of guiding you to discovering what's already known. So my job, to bring it back to this idea of where these kids have the students are having a crisis over what they thought they know and this new evidence. My job is to make sure that they overcome this crisis. And crisis in this case, I don't mean negatively. I mean like cognitive dissonance, right? You need to work through this. It's my job to help you work through that by asking you questions that gets you to think about like why you thought it was this way, why this way works, what's the evidence that we have for this way, and then can you revise your model, right? So you had an understanding, you have new evidence, can you revise your understanding to be more in line with what evidence actually suggests ends up being true? And of course that's liable to change, right? We changed, like, photosynthesis doesn't work the way I was taught in college. We literally discovered new parts or new.
Well, this is my. Right. You better.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
don't ask. So the way photosystems work and the way light actually travels in the electron transport chain is part of photosynthesis. The way I was taught in college, turns out new research shows that there is actually this extra step and there's all this other stuff that happens. So it happens all the time, right? So I need to let my kids know that, hey, we have this evidence now, but new experiments are being done, this knowledge grows and changes.
And
yeah.
Similarly with fitness, or when I read these different articles that the proper range of repetitions that you should be doing to induce hypertrophy is between whatever 6 and 20, and then a few years ago it could have been anything less than that. So there's always just ever changing information. So yeah, just being on top of that is
exactly,
is a good
and
thing.
being honest about it, and that's why this approach works.
Yeah.
Right. At no matter what level of learning you are, whether you're a researcher in a world-class institution trying to figure out the minutia of whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or whether you're a student who's just learning the bare Newton's laws of motion, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It works because you have an idea of how the world works that's informed by experience and everything. And then new evidence comes around and you have to revise your understanding. And that's true. That's how humans learn forever. I mean, that's just natural human learning. What's that? You touch the stove. Ooh, that hurt. Now
Right.
You're informed. You have an idea. You have an understanding that, okay, when stove is red, don't touch. Touch hurt.
Right.
Like, that's just basic human learning.
If my dogs can figure that one out, but
Right.
they're not humans.
Exactly. So that's really the approach I take, and it seems as though it's something we totally have in common is where are you coming from? What do you know? Okay, so let's do something. Let's work it through, and let's see if you learn something new. Let's see if that understanding changes, grows, develops.
So my next question, I would probably say, well, as far as like a contrast, I would say maybe potentially the age range. I'm not sure, but most of my clients are going to be older. So when I say older, they're usually 18 or older. Whereas your group of students are typically, younger than that, I would assume, right? Or roughly around 18, right? So
Yeah.
would you say, teaching kids who are a lot younger than talking to an adult or teaching to an adult, would you think that'd be a different experience for you if you were teaching a group of adults versus, teenagers?
So actually, mindset, okay, right?
Yeah.
So it comes down to there is just an impromptu sort of understanding of you are in school, here's somebody who knows shit, the things they know need to get into you, right?
Right.
And that's what you're for. That's what you're there for. That's what everybody is there for, right?
Right.
You have an idea. Okay, I am here to learn, right? My question is, many of your clients, when they sign up with you, are they there, or is there an idea, right? They're where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Is it their idea that they are there to learn from you, or are they there to just do what you tell them to do?
It's you know what? It's funny because there's a chain of command, right? So usually they'll sit in front of somebody unless it's somebody that just happens to talk to me first, but usually they're sold on an idea, through the sales folk at the front desk, right? So they sit in front of them. There's an expectation of certain things for them for to happen for them, right? Or they might have had experiences before with trainers, and their perception of training might be one way or another. But it sometimes it is just for them to learn a few things and just have that stick, or they just need additional push, almost like treating me as more of like a training partner versus a teacher. So there is that little thing where it's not always just teaching the person, even though that still happens. So it's just, I would say it's very dynamic. I guess that'd be the good word to kind of use. That some clients are there, strictly to understand how to train because they've never lifted a weight in their life. So it's very much just teaching through and through. But there's, those people that have lifted, they feel like they're missing something within their routine or just in their knowledge base. So they need that extra, training partner or whatever you want to call me at that point, to get them that place. So it's very dynamic. I would say it's not really like here is knowledge, figure it out. And then sometimes it could be almost on a friend level, just having a conversation, because it's not always like sometimes a person's having a shitty day and that person just, we work out, but we also just talk a lot too,
Dear God, that hit me hard because we know because of the position we're in, right? You are more than just a trainer, right? People will tell you things, right?
For sure.
And I'm in that mode where on any given day, I'm the teacher, I'm the psychologist, I'm the nurse, I wear all these different hats, sometimes all at the same time to different students. It's insane. So when you said sometimes it's more than just training, right? It's more than just coaching people. They have shit going on. They're at the gym. This is how they chose to work with it. So that's where I'm at with them.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
so. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like, I guess that makes it very similar. I mean, these specific, professions, as far as the approach of one human interacting with another human being, besides, we're teaching them these things, but I mean, a lot of stuff just crosses over because you are talking to another human being. So yeah, there is some emotional aspect, if not, a big chunk of that, whether it's the way because a student could be frustrated, with something they're just not understanding, right? So you have to cope with that in some way, and you can't be robotic and be like, oh, well, sucks to suck. You have to get it down to your level and just kind of like, okay, I understand. There's an empathy to it. So, so it's very, very, very dynamic, I would say, with that.
So let's actually get into a big difference because you get it down to the personal level.
Sure.
And I think we found a lot of commonality between what you do and how you do it, and what I do and how I do it. But there is one stark difference.
Yeah.
Yours is 1 at a time.
Yeah.
Mine is 30-1.
Right.
And this is where, I mean, don't get me wrong. Okay, so there's pros and cons to both, right? There's because you've done group classes, right?
Yeah.
There's definitely pros and cons to both, right? When you're with a group, you're part of a community. You're working with other people at your own level rather than just me being above you, right? So there are pros and cons to both, but objectively, I do not make the same personal connection with every single student every single day. I do my best to know the person, right?
Yeah.
But maybe one just doesn't open up a lot or something, right? There's always something that happens where I cannot be personal with every student every day.
Which is I think another difference is because there is a structure to how you can say certain things to a student, right? You are a teacher and there's still a student, whereas with me, I'm a trainer, but at that point it's an adult to an adult talk, and there isn't much restriction as far as what can be said. Obviously sexual harassment, all that stuff applies, but I'm saying more like as far as like things that can be said, words that I can choose to use, stuff like that. So there's I don't really have to I don't have to feel like I'm really stepping on eggshells in that case, right? So would you say it's very structured with your what you can say to these people, to these kids, even when it comes down to understanding a kid who got in trouble or whatever it is,
So this is something that's always in the front of my mind anytime I'm with a student, a group of students, whether it's one-on or anything. This is always on my mind every single time. I am a male teacher.
Yeah.
And that alone is a massive liability. And you have to be extremely careful. I mean, you think anything that could be vaguely misconstrued as inappropriate. I mean, even remotely misconstrued as inappropriate. I mean, something as simple as like, oh, that's a nice dress. Game over for you.
Right.
There are certain things that I need to be able to work around. That's my biggest issue is you have to be very careful about what you say, how you say it, to what student you say it to.
Yeah.
All right, because don't get me wrong, there are some students I have who we will shoot the shit together just fine,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
But even then, you still have to be careful, right?
Right,
and
of course.
So that is that is always in the front of my head, because one thing, doesn't matter what your intention was, it doesn't matter what you think you said, the way it comes off to somebody else, you really need to be careful in my profession, especially as a male teacher.
Right.
Because we're rare and few between about how you interact with your kids.
Versus, somebody who might be female or otherwise. Would you say is that like a strict thing? So if somebody's a female or whatever teacher, would the same thing apply to them if they were, talking to? It just happens to be like that.
I don't know if there is a double standard, right? So imagine this, right? If think back to school, right? If a female teacher was all like, "Oh, sweetie, are you okay?" Versus if a male teacher said, "Oh, sweetie, are you okay?"
Yeah.
There is a huge, I don't want to call it a double standard, right? Yeah. But it's something that I have to be extremely careful of.
Well, I guess because of the legality or what. I'm not sure what that is on paper as far as that. But
it's a full-on legal issue. Yeah, it's a lawsuit and prison and that's why you have to be so careful and why it's always on my mind. Like, even if whatever you did was benign or whatever you said was benign, doesn't matter. That's a liability. You're fucked. Your career is over.
Words.
Your career is over
because it follows you.
It's game over.
Yeah. So you can't be a teacher ever again.
No way.
Because funny you mentioned that. I mean, as far as like being a male trainer versus a female trainer, because there are certain clients that'll prefer, being with one or the other or whatever it is, right? Which is interesting. In my experience, a lot of female clients will gravitate towards the male trainer, at least like the older ones. So I'm saying like more like the the boomer, I guess, generation. I guess there's a understanding in their head that for whatever reason the male trainer will know more about lifting weights than the female trainer. So it's just a very interesting thing that people will have this kind of perception, so it's fascinating to me.
that is a fair point. And there are these biases that exist, right? That you are X or you are X, so you must know more about whatever. There really isn't that big of a thing here anymore. I know for a while, being because teaching is still such a female-dominated profession, but because I am in STEM, there is a large proportion of male STEM teachers. So science, technology, engineering, math, but It is just something that's I don't even want to think about what kind of shit like gym teachers and like high school coaches need to think about.
That's what I want.
That's just that's a level of liability I will never accept ever for the moment an actual student's safety is on the line. Like chemicals I'm okay with. Like there's nothing in my room that's really dangerous that can actually harm a student, but I'm not. That is no way. A student gets hurt on my watch like that, I'm done. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Wow, that was a huge aside, wasn't it? that was a big aside.
But you know what? You mentioned the group thing, and I was going to jump in on that.
Oh yeah.
So you mentioned that you have a group of 30 or so children per class, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm more one-on-one. I would say the group training approach is a bit more. It feels like I'm juggling. I guess is the best way I could kind of describe it when I do a group training class, because it's not. I can't give the same amount of attention I can give a single person, like during a one-on-one training session, because there's a time limit, and you're everybody else is trying to work out. So if I'm just standing there talking to the one person, everybody else is kind of twiddling their thumbs. But there's a specific art to it, I guess. You give yourself just enough time, very quick interaction with that specific person in the group training class. So very, very direct cues that'll kind of have them figure it out and then just kind of move on to the next person. If it's like a group of 6+ people or whatever it is, whatever fits in that room. But it is definitely different. Because I prefer personally, I prefer, at least in the fitness setting, to do one-on-ones, just because I feel like it's just a lot more. I can get more detail out. I'm very analytical, so I like being more one-on-one, in my opinion.
Got it. Well, now that you mention analytics, we talked about how do you figure out what our students or trainees already know. Mm-hmm. We talked about the actual instructional approach, which is very activity based, like let's actually do things to learn.
Yep.
And then the last part of that equation, right, is what do you know? What am I going to teach you? Is how do I know you learned?
Right.
And I want to start with this. I'm starting this one because I have if it were up to me, all multiple choice tests would be eliminated forever. I have very radical positions about assessment in education.
I was just gonna add to or ask more of that. Like, I know your approach. Like, if you had it your way, how would you structure a class? Like, if you had it your way, what stuff would you get rid of for this person, or for your students to that that if you do it your way, they're gonna learn that material better than anybody else?
All exams away, gone forever. No more. I don't want quizzes. I don't want tests. None of that multiple choice bullshit. None of that. You don't go into a job and your boss gives you something to do, a project, and he's like, "Oh, so you can either do it A, B, C, D." That doesn't fucking exist.
Right.
That's not real life. That's not how you. So you know how to pick the correct answer out of the list. I teach an advanced placement class, so I am pigeonholed into doing multiple choice, into building multiple choice skills, and that's the one thing that I hate most about where education is right now, is we're still in high, really high impact exams, really high stake exams, PSAT, SAT, AC.
Is that across the board? Is that something you see in, like, for instance, in Europe or Asia? Or, like, you know what their approaches are as far as that?
We do, and it really varies based on where you are. The high-stakes testing approach does exist in Japan, China, much of Indonesia. The low-stakes testing approach does exist in much of Scandinavia and a growing part of Europe. So Finland, they're kind of really spearheading this less exams, less testing stuff. More and more European Department of Education are starting to kind of build into this. Really, in much of Europe, the really high-stakes testing comes into when you're trying to get into higher education, right? Because there it's like, hey, if you can get into college, you just go to college for free, right? But can you get in?
Right.
So the high stakes really comes in at the higher level of education. In the United States, the fucking third graders are given a test that's high stakes. The third graders, the fifth graders. The fifth graders, that's when you get pigeonholed into, are you gifted? Are you gonna get allowed to join in with other kids that are I hate tests. I hate standardized tests. If there is one thing I can get rid of, it's that. Forever. Overnight. And not a second thought.
Snap that
not without a second thought. Fuck the College Board. Fuck all of it. All of it. I teach advanced placement, and dear God, I love teaching my class. I love teaching science at a higher level, but fuck tests.
I agree.
Fuck tests. However, I still need to know if my kids learned.
So what would you do?
And here is where it gets the fun part. Here is how I think it should work. And when I got a new course to design, my environmental science course that I got to write from scratch, my principal said, this is it. Do what you want.
Is that something that had to go through CPS for a green light, or it goes through the union, or like how does that?
I submitted a
translate?
syllabus. I submitted a course outline, a syllabus, and I gave it to them. And I'm like, this is how it's gonna go. Oh God, I don't want to talk too much about my actual job and the politics of education on stream, but I had support from my superiors for how I was writing this class, and I'm honest about my thoughts.
I think it's just funny because I could see you holding back everything to say so you don't say the wrong thing. It must be a strenuous thing for you right now.
I had support from my superiors about my approach to this course. It's something that research is starting to support. I can back up the way I do things. And my admin are supportive of this approach to testing that I do, right? And they're because it is a better way to do education. Now, most schools in the United States are also going to put a high stress on standardized tests, PSAT and advanced placement, and that also exists in most schools, all schools, including mine, right? So I understand my job description and I do my job, right? I teach them multiple choice, I teach them the testing tricks. Like, it's my job. I get that, okay? But when you give me my own course to write, all bets are off.
Yeah, definitely.
I haven't given a single multiple choice question to these kids ever, unless it's a poll, you know.
Right.
So
fine. I mean, that's kind of the idea here, isn't it?
it's a new task, right? Oh, the dog's here. Hi, Doge. So the whole idea is you learn something. I need you to show me you understand it. And really, what is the way to show me you learned something is, can you apply your learning to a new context? So something like, I want to give the listeners an example. If I'm teaching ecosystems, and I'm teaching ecosystem structures, food webs, all of that stuff, right? I have them design. I'm sorry, for those of you who aren't live, there are 2 dogs in the studio now, and they are obnoxious, and they're jumping on us. And okay, sit. Don't. I swear to God, if you bite my phone like you bit my caffeine yesterday, I will break you.
Good.
Go away. I don't. What are you doing? I don't want to play with you right now.
This is what we'll do. This is what we'll do.
Hello, viewers. Hello, listeners. We're kicking dogs.
We're kicking these dogs
out of our podcast studio. We're doing it live.
Fuck it, we're doing it live.
We're doing it live. Fuck it, we're doing it live. Let's go.
Go.
Okay. So let's I'm teaching in ecosystems, or I'm teaching ecology and stuff like that. The kids, they learn a food web of, let's say, a rainforest or something, and then I give them a whole bunch of information. I'm like, great, give me, show me you understand the ecology of an ocean. Here are all your organisms. Who are the producers? What do they do? Who eats them? What are the relationships? What's the benefit of this? X, Y, Z. And I always try to make it something that they didn't hear of in class, right? So it's always something very weird. One of my favorites is I teach a weather on earth science and how storms form. So they learn about a thunderstorm. And then they make models of different types of storms, and their exam is a dust storm on Mars.
So as far as their answers are concerned,
yeah,
how lax are you as far as like them getting to, the ballpark of the most correct
I'm impossible.
answer?
I'm impossible. I will, any little thing, game over, right?
Yeah.
So I don't really do grades A, B, C, D. I do like levels of understanding, mastery, proficient, developing, and unsatisfactory. And there's criteria for all of them. Like, dear God, I can write a book about how standards-based grading works. But for them, it's all like, unless you do everything perfect, you're not getting that mastery. But you get to redo it. See, remember that whole thing about where you're coming from, what you think you know, and then what you know? Like, learning happens at different speeds for different students all the time.
Right.
So the question is, okay, you didn't get it right away. So here is where you went wrong. And now let's reflect. Let's ask questions. Go back. Do you remember when we did this? Do you remember when we did this? What happened? What was that? And then they're like, oh. And every now and then you get that oh moment, and they revise it, and then they resubmit it, and show me that you understand now, and I will give you that grade. So revision, redos, very important to how I do things, right?
Right.
So I get to grade like an asshole. I get to say, nope, no. And,
well, you
right.
because they're essentially a reflection of
Right.
of yourself in a way, right? So,
Yeah.
You hold them to a higher standard, than you would, anybody else, because they're your students,
Right.
And I guess that's kind of how I approach my, like, you asked the question, how do I show that what they learned, they in fact learned. So, I feel like Mr. Miyagi, because I'll be like, show me sand the floor, or I'll say, do the deadlift then. And then they'll do the deadlift, they'll cue up, they'll pick their chest up, whatever cues it is that I taught them, and they'll do it. And then, that's satisfactory. And then if they're still not picking up on certain things, then, it's just a work in progress, right? You regress the movement, do something that will allow them to understand that specific movement pattern. And, similarly, also just holding them to a standard that they know they're able to be in, right?
Yeah.
Which is my standard, right?
Yeah. That's
yeah. It's nobody else's standard.
I am unapologetically indifferent to what your goal in my class is, right? My goal is you become proficient at XYZ, right? Here are the skills you need to master. Here are the skills I need you to figure out. Stuff like data analysis, right? Can you read a graph? Like making an argument. Can you form this? Like this. I'm not even talking about like, I understand the Krebs cycle, or I memorized this process. I understand I can give you the chemical. No. That's not what I want. I'm teaching you skills that fucking matter, so you don't go on Facebook 20 years later and tell me that the earth is flat and vaccines cause autism and 5G gives you cancer. I am trying to prevent the fuck up that science education for the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years has caused, which is a generation of dipshits who don't understand how science works, okay? So I am fixing that problem by teaching them skills, understanding, revision. You understand how fucked up the world is and how it's my job to unfuck the world?
I'm just laughing because I'm like, that's the clip right there. This is the short.
Short.
This is the sum up of the whole podcast.
I'm trying to unstupid the world, and you're trying to unlazy the world. Okay,
Exactly.
This is how it's working now. I don't. Whatever. So at the end of the day, my goal is, how do I know you learned? Is you can take what you learn and apply it to a new context. Great. You know how rainstorms work in Chicago? Tell me how a dust storm works on Mars. Because it's the same thing. The only difference, instead of water, it's dust, And they build me a model. Show me step by step. Literally, my question is, build me a model of how a dust storm works on Mars. And sure, I give them the information they need, the resources, like, can they figure out that dust works the same way water does and all that stuff?
Almost,
yeah.
Your approach almost sounds like almost like a Montessori style approach, where there isn't a lot of hand holding, I guess, but it's you push them in
Exactly.
the direction, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have very radical thoughts on how education should work. So let me ask you now. In the fitness world, I am all for eliminating tests, standardized tests,
Yeah.
tests in the classroom. Get rid of them. Make them do projects, applications, stuff
Yeah.
like that. What is your, if you had to get rid of something, what would you get rid of?
You know what? As far as whereas for me, I would say there are certain tests that are just effective in understanding a person as far as movement, because us being human beings, we only move certain kinds of ways, right? So I would
press, pull, gait, squat.
Right, carry, right, hinge, all that fun stuff. So I feel like there almost has to be that structure to kind of then, everybody's sure a different person, but there's certain things that these specific tests will allow me to do. So there are standardized assessments that I follow as far as movement patterns. So I'm all for that. I don't know if I would get rid of much as far as what it kind of takes for me, because I have for the most part free reign of how I approach my training philosophy and how I program a fitness program for a specific client. So I'd keep a lot of the same stuff, honestly. That's where I differ.
Yeah,
I'm all for the test, right?
I'm fighting a world of bullshit.
So. which I feel, because it's so based on information as far as the sciences and stuff like that. Whereas with me, it's these people are trying to live a healthier life, understand working out and stuff like that. So I feel like it's I guess that way,
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's been 50 minutes.
Man,
yeah,
this one was good.
This is a long one.
Long boy.
I think it's time to cut to Fake Natty News.
Fake Natty News.
Let's go to Fake Natty News.
Let's do it. Here we go. Well, you gotta have the guy
picking the Like, you can see them saying, Fake Natty Mike.
Bro, you're fake Natty, bruv.
Yeah. Okay. You start this one.
Welcome to another installment of Fake Natty News Network, your most trusted source for fake fitness news. My name is Jed Einite.
And I am Star Fleet. Here are your top headlines for the week. This week, we saw tensions rise on Swole Street as a large group of people are attempting to take gains from an established equipment hog. Many equipment hoggers bet on the failure of GainStop, a popular gym that was slowly experiencing a decline. However, many bros disagreed and claimed that GainStop will improve their standing in the future. Knowing that the equipment hogs are set to lose all their gains if GainStop becomes successful, they began to artificially increasing the value of GainStop by pumping it full of steroids. There is a great animosity between the equipment hoggers and the GainStop enthusiasts because equipment hoggers have led to a huge collapse of gains before, literally by hogging everything for themselves. The enthusiasts are dedicated to lifting as much as they can to ensure they can get the most gains.
It's my turn, isn't it?
It is your turn, yes.
Ahem. A local gym goer, Joe Schmo, has returned from a trip to Europe absolutely devastated. Joe is claiming that all Europeans are stronger than Americans because the weights they lift are much heavier. Joe proudly squats 500 for reps, but in Europe he barely managed to do the same amount of reps at just 225. He was absolutely confused. He inspected the plates multiple times. He found it weird that the big plates in the gym were only 25s, but he figured it out. He figured it was just a weird European thing. He added all the numbers together, and indeed, the weight on the bar was 225. The news of this spread to his bros at the gym, and nobody could explain this strange phenomenon. Some of his bros thought maybe the gravity in Europe is different. Others accuse the gym owner of putting fake weights in the gym. This mystery remains unsolved. And that's fake natty news.
I really hope. Does that need to be explained? Like why that's funny?
I hope not. Well, conversion, kilograms, pounds, that whole thing.
You see, in Europe, plates are sold in kilos, whereas here it's in pounds, and 25 kilos is like 55 pounds. It's like 2.2 pounds per kilo.
See, it's not funny anymore.
So it's not funny, but I don't know X amount of, I don't know how many people are watching
Gain stonk
that may not know that Europe uses kilogram plates.
Yeah. Let us explain, I guess.
We're gonna explain the joke for the lowest common denominator here. Speaking of lowest common denominator, I think it's time for me to show everybody I'm stronger than you at the gym.
Yeah.
Gym stream next.
Gym stream next.
Surprise gym stream next. Let's
Gym
go,
stream.
boys,
So
to the
join us.
moon.